Okay, so we're starting off with, I have a belated Chanukah present for the dorm, okay? And I wanted to actually get, so, okay, this is a book. It's not a puppy. Puppy's for everyone. Well, I'm just gonna pull it out of my jacket. But so this is a book that I reviewed and recommended on the book review chat. In case you're part of that, Humans by Brandon Stanton. So Humans of New York. Those of you, so if you know Humans of New York, this is the guy, and you will absolutely love this. If you don't know Humans of New York, you are in for a huge treat. Yeah. So this is brief thing is this guy started off as a photo blogger, interviewing people on the streets of New York, and he is like one of the most talented people at just immediately getting to the core of their humanity and like pulling out something that is just an amazing Mishlei insight or self-knowledge insight or psychology insight. And this one is one where he went all around the world to 40 countries or whatever, and interviewed a bunch of people, and it's just a really good book to either flip through in your spare time or to binge, just read it all the way through on a Shabbos or something. I was gonna get a copy for everybody because this I got for $30, but it was briefly on sale for $7 a copy, and I was just going to buy it for everyone, but they only allowed one per customer, so I couldn't do that without going through a lot of trouble. So I guess just keep it in some central location, and you can borrow it and stuff every once in a while, but it's just really, really highly recommended. And yeah, it's and I wish I could get copies for everyone.
Did you get a copy from Anne?
No, and if anything, then it was the other way around.
Oh, okay, probably.
Yeah, I mean, I think, she bought it when I recommended it. I think so. Yeah. And so did the lifters and a bunch of other people. But Johnny actually was interviewed by him and said it was an incredible experience. I don't know, something about he seems like a really, really unique individual, and Tim Ferriss did an interview with him. So that's also interesting. Was it? Johnny's not in the book, unfortunately. Yeah. Hello. Yeah. Okay. So that's what I had to say about that. Okay. And I'm only recording this because I want more people to know about the book, and it is Mishlei. It really, you're going to get so many Mishlei insights, but also such a feeling of deep connection to all of humanity. It's incredible.
Is it a front to back book, or kind of just open it up?
You can open up to random stuff. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Alrighty. I initially, when I first bought it, I was going to do 1 page a day because I have a bunch of books where I do 1 page a day, and I binged it, and it's definitely binge worthy. Everyone have copies? Yeah. Okay, good. All right. So let's get started with Mishlei. Let's go share screen. Okay. So quick review of 21:11. When the late is punished, or when he is stricken, the late is a scoffer, then the Pesi will become wise, and in the Chacham's becoming intelligent, he will take knowledge. So brief definition of late is someone who is aggressive and haughty, and likes mocking people and rejoicing their downfall and speaking Lashon Hara and stuff. Pesi is a naive simpleton, basically someone who operates by the philosophy of, if it feels good, it is good. If it feels true, it is true. If it feels bad, it is bad. If it feels false, it is false. Totally based on feelings. And then Chacham, we already have a sense of. Yeah, okay, so our questions are, what's the definition of a late? And that was crossed out because I think all we need to know about the late here is that he is not open typically to learning, about and changing his behavior on that basis. I don't think we need to define him for our purposes. 2, what is a Pesi in this context, which we've addressed just now. 3, what does onesh mean in this context? Is it punishment that is delivered by human beings? Is it consequences? Is it something else? 4, how and why is the lates getting onesh? What are the circumstances? 5, how does the onesh of the lates make the Pesi become wise and not the lates? 6, is it specifically the lates, or is this an example we explored yesterday? Why not the Russia as an example of that? 7, what does haskil mean? Is it the opposite of getting onesh? Is that the opposite in the pasuk there? 8, who is the subject of yikach das? Is it the Chacham who's taking knowledge or the Pesi taking knowledge? And if it's the Chacham, what's the chiddush? Obviously, Chachamim take knowledge. And also, what would be the difference between haskil and yikach das? Apparently, they're not the same. If you say that both of them are the chacham. 9, how are the two halves related? Are they opposites? And who are the opposites? Is it the chacham and the pesi or the chacham and the lates? 10, what's the practical application and who's the audience? Is it the pesi? Is it the rebuke instructor or someone else? Yeah, Jakob.
Could we try taking the approach Meiri and answering all the questions?
Yes, let's do that. So you want to just jog my memory of what we said yesterday? Yeah.
I think it was basically taking the approach that it's both has it talking to the Pesi.
Yeah.
So the Pesi learns from two different people.
Right.
The late's getting punished and the chacham having to even receive.
Right. Okay, good. Right. So he gets affected by the lates being punished because the Pesi is going to see, again, he's very influenced by his emotions. So when he sees the guy get the consequence, especially a guy like the lates who was holding himself above all fault and like mocking others, and he sees him get his just desserts, then he's like, oh yeah, like that really, this principle really is true, or like this thing really does have consequences. But then with a chacham, it's a different kind of learning and it's more subtle, but he learns from the role modeling of the chacham, because he's influenced by his emotions, and that's the Ralbag and Saad Yagon. I'm sure others say that like the reason why the Torah teaches us midos through real world examples of like the avos and people is because it's easier to learn by emulation than it is by it's easier to learn good behavior by emulation than it is by like reading Nicomachean ethics, like an ethical treatise, and that's also the whole method of Mishlei is like, it's true that there are proverbs, but he's trying to depict like examples because examples have an impact on people. And when you witness the examples, then like it's even more impactful. So it makes sense that the Pesi gets both these, gains from both these modes of learning. So does that answer all the questions? So it answers question number 2. Anush would just mean a consequence, right? And it could even be an artificial consequence, but like I think my sense is that Mishlei means like natural consequences of a consequence of his actions. How and why is late's getting onesh doesn't really matter, I don't think, right? As long as it's a consequence that is coming from his bad decision making or his bad midos. Is that?
Do you know why he is going to make bad decisions? Or?
That I think is going to involve getting into what the late is. Yeah. I mean, I think it's easier to see how he's going to get bad consequences from his haughtiness. Like there are a lot of pasukim and a lot of things in Chazal about how a haughty person is basically setting himself up for disaster. 5. And then also what we said yesterday is that the late is making such a big deal of holding himself above other people that like it's evident when he gets the very thing that he's like priding himself on, like the very consequence he's priding himself on not receiving. How does the ownership of the lates make the Pesi become wise, but not the lates? Okay, so that we've explained in the main idea. Is it specifically the lates or is he just an example? So I think he is just an example. But he's just a good example though. I think the Pesi could learn from watching another Pesi, get a consequence. Or Russia, yeah.
You said yesterday that like it's just more subtle when the Russia tends to be.
Right.
It tends to be harder to pick out a Russia also.
Correct. Definitely. Yeah, it's hard to see that. I just want to see. I wonder if he talks about lates because maybe is the lates show up in the next pasuk? The next one is about Russia. I quoted just the later pasuk of malicious or aggressive and haughty person. Lates is his name. He acts in the wrath of aggression. But yeah, we didn't delve into the definition. So I think it's just an example. What does haskil mean? Okay, so that I think is the thing that needs the most work that we did not touch on yesterday. So what does it mean when if you go with Yaakov's original translation of when the chacham behaves intelligently, then it would work out. But I don't know if you can read haskil that way.
Also, because it says le chacham, which means that the haskil.
Yeah, that's true. Right. So, and we saw that all the English translations said when the chacham is instructed, and haskil le chacham seems to mean when he's like,
something is doing something to him. He's
right. So we did say yesterday as a possibility that when you watch the chacham, that it's very easy to look at a chacham and feel like, oh, these people are intrinsically great or intrinsically wise. And when you see the chacham becoming more intelligent through learning, that has an impact on you also. I think I've told this story before, but I'll tell it again, is that one of the moments like this when I was in yeshiva, especially in my first 2 years of yeshiva, where I was like freshly Jewish and like still like learning how to read stuff, then and I could not make any headway in Svara, like, at all, then there were periods of extreme like despondency and like feeling like, oh, like I'm not cut out for this. And I overheard, and I honestly don't remember who it was. I think one of the people was Rabbi Fader, and I think it was one of his chavrusas. I overheard them in another room talking to each other about the problems that they're having in their learning development. And I was like, my jaw dropped, because I was like, when you have, and this is the thing in general, when you have problems, you feel like you're the only one who has those problems. And then when you see it in another person, there's a certain relief. But when you see it in like the people who you look up to in the very thing that you're like having problems in, it has a different effect. And I was like, wow, like they struggle with this also. And like, and this doesn't mean I'm doomed, and like, this doesn't mean, and so like seeing them, it wasn't exactly them becoming like hostile, but it was them seeing that transformative nature that they made themselves into who they are through seeking instruction. And like, I just got to keep at it, so that was an example. But yeah, could we answer the question about, is the opposite of getting onish? Or I feel like we were taking it, it's not opposite, it's two modes, right?
Yeah.
Like it's opposite in the sense of like consequence and benefit maybe, but it's not like opposite, like fool and chacham in general in Mishlei. Anyone have anything else to say on question 7? I mean, I think when we do Mefarshim today, then we'll see if anyone else explains Haskell in a different way, but I think this is pretty good for our purposes. Is this, yeah? Okay. Oops. Who's the subject of Yikach Das? Is it the Chacham or the Pesi? So we're learning it as the Chacham. And we're answering the Chiddush question because we're saying that the Chiddush is not, we're saying it's the Pesi. Yeah, sorry. It's the Pesi. So therefore we don't need to answer the Chiddush question for the Chacham.
Yeah, in terms of difference.
In terms of difference, yeah.
I would say, right, in terms of when he sees somebody getting punished, right? So that just confirms to him that there are certain things that you shouldn't do.
Yeah.
Right? But that doesn't create a positive action within.
That's true.
What he's supposed to be doing.
Right. That's
right?
good.
The only way in which you can understand that is by seeing somebody doing something successfully.
Yeah.
And then seeing that it works.
Okay, that's a very good point. That's a very good point, which is that where else is this in I mean, the pasuk that comes to my mind is Sur Meirav Asay Tov, which is, I think, a pasuk in Tehillim, that those are the two branches that you need to continually be working on. And I have seen this mistake in, I think you can make the mistake both ways, which is that there are people who in their own development focus primarily on one or the other, like, let's say like in learning in yeshiva, like there are people who will focus on what are the correct ways to like improve your skills in learning, but they won't focus on the bad habits that they're doing, which are impediments to their learning development, or vice versa, or they'll they'll work on like removing all the impediments, but won't positively seek out like, how can I actually like develop in my thinking,
Yes.
Yeah.
Or like a lot of times people will they'll have an interaction and they'll be like, I did this wrong. Right?
Yeah.
They won't take the next step of saying, what should I do next time?
Right. Yeah, correct. Yeah, that's a good, it's always good in Mishlei when a pasuk, it doesn't have to be like this, but when a pasuk addresses something in a comprehensive way, like as opposed to just like example. And this is like, he needs these two spheres of like, of gain. Okay. Then how are the two halves related? So I think that's like answered by the main thing that we're saying, and it's the chacham. So it's not really the chacham and the lates. It's really what was it?
I was gonna say the chacham and the lates.
Well, I think it's really the
knowledge that the Pesi is getting.
I'd say like it's the chacham and the lates as like objects, not subjects, right? As like watching how each of them learns or doesn't learn. Those are opposites. And then what's the practical application and who's the audience? So I think that this is good for the Pesi, right? I think this is like useful for the Pesi. Like, look at the chachamim around you and pay attention to the leitzim around you getting punished. But it's also good, I think, for the instructor, like I said, before, of like, if you are a chacham or you are someone who punishes leitzim, be aware that like you should provide this service for the for the Pesayim who you have an impact on. And again, like as a high school teacher, like I had to work for my initial like training years on making explicit stuff that I took for granted, or like demonstrating things that create visible ways of like that people can can learn from, and that's like there's a art to that. Again, I think in parenting it's a similar thing. As like parents can have a lot of internal development that if they were to just translate into something visible for their kids, then the kids would gain a lot from. Yeah.
We're saying that it could be for the Pesi as well. Does a Pesi in general know he's a Pesi? If he was reading this pasuk, he'd be like, Pesi.
Right.
Pesi.
So I think many Pesayim do not know that they're Pesayim, but the Pesi who's reading Mishlei, I think knows he's a Pesi. Like I think it's a fairly easy thing to diagnose in yourself. And I think the fact that we all start off as Pesayim is a further reason that someone who learns Mishlei will realize, oh, yep, I am a Pesi. That one's me.
And I'd say we're all Pesayim to some extent.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's like all
and
of the
so
Mishlei types. It's an archetype, and we all partake of the Pesi. Yeah.
Yeah, I think like a particular actionable insight from that is that like if you're struggling with a particular thing, you should look, rather than trying to convince yourself that it's true, you should look for examples in other people about it.
Right. So yeah, you mentioned that yesterday. I wanted to go into one of the Mefarshim who says that. Look at, I believe, I think it's the Meiri. Okay, if I'm understanding the Meiri correctly. So Meiri is towards the bottom on the right. So this is alluding, I don't know why it says alluding to. Whatever, alluding to the midos of rebuke. And I think what he means is the midos of like receiving, well, let's see. Okay, well, we'll see. There are those who are rebuked from themselves by their own intellect. Okay. And then there are those who haven't reached that level. But they listen to the rebuke of the rebukers. So this guy is called a chacham, meaning I think the guy who listens to rebuke from other people because he accepts or receives rebuke. And he applies his mind to that which his teachers rebuke him with. Okay, so I guess just in terms of the three, there's how many? I think there's going to end up being 4 people in this pasuk. Right, there's the person who rebukes himself. That person is not talked about in this pasuk, I think. Then there's the person who listens to rebuke from his teachers. That's the chacham, v'haskil l'chacham yikach das. Then there's going to be the Pesi, who he's going to talk about momentarily, I think. And then there's going to be the late, who does not take rebuke even when he's given it. Okay. Pesi. Oh, okay. Maybe it's a different thing. Someone who does not receive rebuke, does not take rebuke from those who rebuke him, is called a Pesi. Okay. Okay, so I think this is the part that Isaac was talking about. So I think I would translate it like this, and my translation is going to be open to dispute as always, but I think I'm slightly ambivalent here. If his intellect cannot overpower in order to accept the rebuke of those who rebuke him, meaning if he has psychological resistance to being rebuked, okay, and like he can't like dominate that psychological resistance with his own intellect in order to be able to be receptive to rebuke. So what should he do? Yisbonin ba'atzmo, so he should contemplate on his own b'peulos b'nei adam, the actions of people, v'yira ma yikrem lefi hanhagasam, and see what happens to them in their behavior. Ubiroso halates nenash lepisho ulavono, and when he sees the lates punished for his offense and his iniquity, im onish malchus, im onish shamayim, whether it is a government punishment, I don't know why he goes specifically to government instead of saying onish b'nei adam, or if it's a punishment from heaven, like a consequence.
Well, because I guess through usual
I know why, yeah.
Adam to Adam, there's not really like a visible kind of
Yeah. I think that's why. I think he's taking the word onesh, and he's saying like a punishment that is administered.
Yeah.
And like, I said that onesh can mean a consequence, but he seems to be translating it as punishment. So therefore it's only going to be like through an agency that has control over punishment.
Because then what does like B'dish Mayim means? I mean, they're like
So-
struck by lightning, and I'm like, that must.
So I think that is natural consequences. That's what how the Rambam explains the use of mishpat when applied to Hashem is like natural consequences.
How do we determine that? Whatever.
I mean that's like all Mishlei natural consequences. Like you steal from people and then you get caught and you lose your reputation, or you lie and then people don't trust you anymore, or you do something quickly and then you make mistakes. Yeah. Okay. The Yashuv midarcha hara. Sorry, Yischakim hu b'zeh. He will make himself wise through this. Yashuv midarcha hara, and he'll do teshuvah from his evil path. Okay. The alzeh amar derech hoda, and regarding this, it says by way of information. Ba'anosh leitz kishiyire b'mesh yanishuhu l'masha asa, when he sees for what he is punished for what he did. I don't know. B'mesh yanishuhu l'masha asa. Yechkam Pesi, the Pesi will become wise. V'yizahir gamhu me'asas davar zeh, and he'll also guard against doing this. Uvahaski l'chacham, klomar enot sarich l'kach. The chacham doesn't need this. Ela kashiyaskiluhu v'yochichuhu yikach das, v'shlomer yikabel hatochachas. Meaning to say that when they teach him and rebuke him, then he'll take das, which means he'll receive the tochacha. The chacham, yeah. So let's just summarize the way he's learning it right now. So he's saying basically that the two people that the pasuk is focusing on are people who. So the Pesi, he's saying, is someone who is not psychologically on the level, you don't know if you want to call it developmentally on the level to be receptive to rebuke. Okay, either because his mind, it sounds like, he used the word shlo hiskaber sichlo. So it sounds like it's a matter of like, there is psychological resistance and his intellect isn't strong enough, which means that the two ways out are either overcome the psychological resistance or become more of a maskil, and then you can do this. But whatever it is, developmentally, he's not on the level to take rebuke. So his best bet is to learn from other people, and that's where books like this come in handy, because you can see and that's where, okay, so there's two things: either seeing actual real world examples of people who are making bad decisions and getting consequences, and it's easier to see it in others. And then what eventually will happen is you'll start to see those same things in yourself, but naturally it'll happen, Or another good vehicle for this is, again, it's not a secret that I am a big movie lover and TV, whatever, fiction consumer. And one of the benefits in Mishlei of consuming fiction is if it is fiction that is done well, then it can serve as vicarious experience from which you can derive Mishlei insight. And again, we had this, I had my whole Mishlei movies class. That was the elective that I created in Shalhevet we would watch movies and then get Mishlei ideas and insights from them, and it's a thing you can do. I mean, I think it's okay it's totally fine, to just, watch movies for entertainment. But if you can train yourself to be on the lookout for Mishlei insights and then talk about them afterwards, you get a whole other layer of enjoyment from the movie. And you actually get lasting, lessons that are impactful because they impact your emotions.
Squid Games.
Squid Games. Yes. Yeah.
It's interesting that it seems that we're taking an aspect of the lates and we're contrasting it with the Pesi, according to Meiri, and he's saying that they both can't take rebuke.
Yeah.
But it seems like the Pesi has the ability to look into others.
Yeah.
Versus the
Correct.
For whatever reason.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because he sees himself as just, I'm not like these people because I'm so much higher than them because of his arrogance, right?
Right.
That he can't do. He
See,
lacks his ability.
You know what's funny? this is a question, but like I'll say it as an assertion of truth. Okay, the Lates is in a better position than the Pesi to apply this. Why? Because one of the key features of the Lates is he speaks Lashon Hara and he rejoices in people's downfall and he looks down on other people. So he's psychologically predisposed to be looking for faults in other people. It's just that if he were to do that mishleically, like he would actually like gain from this. But so I answer my own question now. Okay, but the reason why this is not going to work. So on the one hand, he's capable of doing that, but because he's so haughty that he can't see blemishes in himself, so then he's not going to make that critical step, or he's going to be incapable of the natural process of happening of like reflecting on himself and seeing, oh, like this is like that's me, like this is I
think we might be saying the same thing. Like what I said before is that he could also, the Pesi sees himself as similar to other people, right?
Yeah.
He's like, I'm just another person. Versus the Late sees himself as
That's a good point.
So he'll see a fault in somebody.
Yeah.
He'll be like, oh, that doesn't apply to me because I'm, this
Exactly.
arrogant person.
That's a really good idea, and it's interesting because that's like the opposite of what we described as the way the Pesi is going to see the Chacham. Meaning, we said that it's easy to fall into the trap of viewing Chachamim as intrinsically better. And the Late sees people as intrinsically idiots, or as intrinsically failures or like losers or whatever,
Right.
As opposed to the Pesi, who is at least capable, certainly the Chacham, but the Pesi is capable of seeing people can transform based on their decisions and the way and their tshuva and their tochacha. And I think it's a combo of those two things that you said is like the Pesi sees this guy is fundamentally no different than I am. Another good reason to read this book. And it is amazing, by the way, that like, sorry, side plug for the book. All right, let me finish my point. I'll make a side plug for the book. It's seeing these people as fundamentally the same, and people can change through learning. Side point. So after rereading this, I bought it and read it last year over Sukkot, and then I reread it earlier, like last month. And then I bought his first book, which is Humans of New York. And it's interesting. It's written as, it's the same quality, but somehow seeing people from completely different societies and countries and poverty levels and like, cultures having the same experiences and phenomena that we do drives home the point even more, as opposed to seeing people who are the same as us, which are people in New York, So I don't know, it was related to that point. Okay. So yeah, Isaac, that was, I think along the lines that you were taking. Okay. Should we try?
I like that characterization of the Lates, by the way.
Yes, that's a really, really good thing. Yeah, and this is making me like, this is like a teaser for when we learn about the Lates. Like, I'm really excited to delve into that. It's one of the most interesting Mishlei personalities. Okay, let's do Rabbeinu Yonah. I forgot what he says. Let's not do the derech nisra. I kind of am more in the mood to get more derech nigleh here. Okay. And we're gonna go with my moods. Ma'anash Lates yefkam Pesi, right above the Meiri. Inyanok inyan Lates take Pesi yarin. Ukvar pirashnu. Okay, so I mentioned that yesterday. This is like pasuk 1925. When the Lates is stricken, the Pesi will become cunning, and I've already explained it. Okay, fine. All right, maybe this is not going to be good. Let's see. Uvahaskil lechacham yikach das. Kasher taskil lechacham uma shaga, or according to the footnote, kisav yad. So when the Chacham comprehends the errors that he has made in his actions, okay, Yishmor hada'as hahi belibo, he will preserve that knowledge in his heart. V'lo yishkachehu, yishakacha. I think it should be whatever, right? And he will not forget it. He charas osa La'olam al luach libo. He has engraved it forever upon the tablet of his heart. Because he stumbled and erred in that matter. This is a really interesting phrase. A person will not literally stand on matters of Torah. It's mantra that they won't he won't attain, or be Makayim, these words of Torah, unless he stumbles in them. Okay.
Oh, that's kind of like with Sarah Agra kind of thing.
It's interesting. What's your understanding? I mean, that's not my understanding of Zara, but what's your understanding of it?
I guess in a word, it's that when you like struggle in something,
Yeah.
you end up coming out with that. Like that's how you get like real progress.
Okay, I see this the resemblance. Let's read this last line and then analyze. Uvamidas hanavon amar lamala, and regarding the trait of the navon above in that pasuk he quoted, v'hochiach lenavon yavin das, when he rebukes rebuke the navon and he will understand knowledge. Ki yavin lihizahir b'dvarim acherim mitochacha sacha kasher pirashnuhu. Oh, you know what? If we got to do the responsible thing here, let's just quickly read the Rabbeinu Yonah on 1925, which is not obviously in your packet. Oops, I always do this. Okay, hold on. Share the whole screen again. 1925. 19.
A good year.
25.
No, the question starts in 29. It was still a long
Okay, 1925. Here we go. Late Taka Pesi Yarim. Okay, Rabbeinu Yonah. Oh, it's short. Good. It's outside my laziness. Late Taka Pesi Yarim. Alpha Pish ain tikva lelates betochachas. Even though the late has no hope in being rebuked, velo b'shevet, and he has no hope in the rod, which means in being corporally punished. Roi liasra ulahakoso ki avar toros v'chelef chok. It is nevertheless proper to discipline him and to strike him when he violates laws and violates laws. I think that's probably an idiom from a pasuk. Yeah. Oh man, I was gonna randomly guess. I bet this is from Yechezkel. I have no knowledge of Yechezkel, but it was from Yeshayahu, so my guess would have been wrong. Laman yivasru hashomim yarimu hapesayim, in order to discipline the listeners and make clever the pesayim. Those who remain will listen and will fear. So this pasuk seems to be directed towards the rebuker, right? Not towards the Pesi. And rebuking the lates, the navon. Lo me'asher tochichenu ubilvad yivasar v'yizaher b'dvarim acherim b'sibas hadavar asher he's hard to alav v'yavin b'masa. I feel like there's a word missing here. Lo me'asher tochichenu. I think there should not be a vav here. Bilvad yivaser v'yizaher. What?
Is it a flowing thing?
So here,
no one gets tochacha, but not from you giving tochacha.
let me tell you how I want to read it. Not only from the fact that you rebuke him will he be chastised and guard again. No. Let me just see if I have. Hold on a second. Mishlei 1925. Do we have it? Should have the Torah time from last year. Hold on. I didn't keep it in that folder last year. Did I keep it in my Mishlei folder? Mishlei 9. Don't know where I put it. Let me try this one more time. Oh, here we go. 20. That would have been easier. But ad asis lahachi, as they say. Oh, nope, not ad asis lahachi. Ad asis le. All right, fine. I'll just read it from. Yeah. All right, sorry. Hold on. 1925. Okay. Lo me'asher tochichenu bilvad yivaser. Yeah, score. Okay, right. So I got. Now let's see if it makes sense of it. Where I lost it. I got so excited. V'yizahir b'devarim acherim v'sibas hadavar asher he's talked to a lot. Okay, so hold on. I gotta do my. I gotta. Hold on. Oh, I can't.
Oh no.
Sorry. I got to set a good example. Yeah. Okay. Sending a correction to all Torah. part of my daily routine. No, almost daily routine. Yeah. So he will not only gain from being rebuked about that thing. He's hard to allow, but he'll also guard against other things on account of the thing he was warned about. He will understand in his actions and investigate his ways and analyze when he sees that he stumbled in another thing. So in other words, like this, you have 4 levels. Okay, the lates, even when he's rebuked or stricken, he doesn't gain anything. Then you got the Pesi, who's not in pasuk 1925. Pesi is going to be in our pasuk, who will, what did Rabbeinu Yonah say in our pasuk? Will learn from seeing the lates get the consequence. Okay. Then you've got the Chacham, who will learn about that one particular thing that you rebuked him on, but he won't extrapolate into a universal and apply it to other areas. And then you have the Navon, who sees the thing that he is rebuked in, and that will trigger a whole thought process where he'll derive new knowledge and apply it to new cases. And that's the highest level. So okay, so what's the new thing that the pasuk is adding here, in addition to what is said in 1925? Yeah.
Can you translate the Navon?
The Navon in our pasuk here, or
no,
in the one before? Yeah. So not only in regards to what he rebuked at. Not only in regards to what he is rebuked with will he be disciplined, but he will also be careful in other things on account of that matter that he was warned about, and he will analyze. He will, apply tevuna to his actions and analyze his ways and investigate and see when he stumbles in another matter, and he will fear for his soul. Perhaps an iniquity and a stumbling block will happen to be like this in other areas. Yeah.
So it sounds like the Navon would take this example and extrapolate the category out.
Correct.
And then find all the instances of that category.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly. Yeah.
The Chacham apparently only does that.
The Chacham, yeah. So the Chacham can see the consequences of actions. So this is, I think, using the word Chacham in the sense of Chacham is someone who can receive knowledge from others, but not derive new knowledge on his own. And the Navon is someone who derives new knowledge on his own. The best place to get this definition is in Rashi on Devarim 1, blah, blah, blah. Hold on. Chachma. Let's see what shows up there. Oh, no, it didn't work. All right. Chachma Da'as. Yeah, there we go. In Rashi on Devarim, this is back when I was in my footnote mode, 113. He says that, this is a chazal, but Rashi says, Navonim is those who refer to Mevin Davar Mitoch Davar, who infer one thing from another. Arios asked Rabbi Yossi this question: what is the difference between Chachamim and Navonim? Rabbi Yossi answered, a Chacham is like a rich money changer. When they bring him coins to examine, he examines them. When they don't bring him coins to examine, he sits and does nothing. But a Navon is like a merchant money changer. When they bring him money to examine, he examines. When they don't bring him money to examine, he goes and brings in business on his own. So, and then I explain on a basic level, the main difference between the Chacham and the Navon is that the Chacham is a dependent learner, whereas the Navon is an independent learner. In other words, the Chacham relies on other people to provide him with knowledge, whereas the Navon is capable of deriving new insights based on what he already knows. So that's in rebuke, that's how it's going to play out, is he'll see, okay, I should not, drive a car if I just choked on a caper and had a near-death experience, but will not extrapolate to like, I'm having a really bad day because I'm angry at my boss and therefore I shouldn't drive, or like I'm whatever, like it won't extrapolate, but a Navon will. So what's the new thing that our pasuk adds? And you could see it because it's the only part of Rabbeinu Yonah's commentary on our pasuk that he doesn't say, I already explained this. So in the interest of time, I'll point it out, and you can tell me what it means. The yikach das. So how's he learning yikach?
Like an acquisition.
As opposed to what though?
a temporary.
Yes, right. So a permanent acquisition as opposed to like temporary guidance. So he says the Chacham, when he actually, yeah, he engraves it upon his heart. And it's interesting. It's mipnei shenichshal b'shaga b'davar. Okay, so this is interesting. Is he's not learning? So he's learning this davka as tochacha, not as just learning ideas from other people. So in other words, you make a mistake, and then someone rebukes you, and because of that combo of you made a mistake, they rebuke you, you're capable of understanding what they said, and then you apply that understanding to yourself. That seals in the knowledge, you know? And that's why, like, again, in my Mishlei assignments that I gave in high school, I would always, there's a part of the assignment where I had students write a real world example. And I always encourage them, if you have an example where this happened to you, write about that. And if you can't find one, then find an example from other people or from a movie or from from history. But like, if it's about you, there's something that like, well, can we explain what the phenomenon is? What makes the idea of the tochacha stick with you more when you're the one who stumbled in it, as opposed to like seeing it in someone else? This is, by the way, just to point out, it's not opposite, but it is like, in a sense, it's the opposite of the idea we said about the Pesi, this is according to this way of learning it, it is a direct opposite of the Pesi. The Pesi can't learn from tochacha, but he does learn from watching someone else get punished. And the Chacham here can learn from tochacha, and he learns better if he gets punished, or if he gets not punished, if he gets rebuked. I could probably say it cleaner than that, but so what
does the same apply for rewards as well, or enforcement?
It's a good question. I think that's going to depend on how we answer this question.
Right.
Because like, okay, I'm going to throw out the first thing that comes to mind just because we don't have a lot of time. Do you think it has to do with ego? Like, if there is a natural drive in people to want to be successful and to not fail, to not want to fail. So if someone clearly points out to you, like, you failed and this is why, then there is a very strong ego incentive to take that lesson to heart so that you don't make the mistake again, and again, it could easily cut the other way if you're late, which is right. Is that if you are, in other words, if you're so egotistical that you don't even want to see your own blemish, so then you won't be receptive. But if you are, if your ego is open enough to be able to, if you can attach your ego to wanting to improve, so then it'll engrave on your heart even more, because you'll be like, I don't want that to happen to me again, And I assume we've all had this experience where like you get rebuked and and it really is painful, and like, I will do anything in my power to avoid this happening again, and you really take it to heart,
That's a lack of ego. I think the strong ego goes away.
Yeah. So I think we're using the word ego, either we're using it equivocally, or we need to come up with the theory of ego where like it's a quantitative thing, like I don't mean ego. When I say ego, I really mean like I mean ego in the healthy way of like healthy self-interest of like wanting to be successful, Yeah, so we might just be speaking in different terms. Can we maybe would you object if we spent one more day on this?
No.
Okay, that's no.
No, don't mind.
Okay, all right, so let's do that, and then we can do the derech nister also, Blina Eder tomorrow. All right, so quick review. So we had basically the Meiri's idea, which was that you should start by trying to see these ideas in other people getting consequences if you can't see it on your own, if you have too much psychological resistance. And it's a good way to start off in Mishlei like that. And then we have the Rabbeinu Yonah's idea, which is that it's going to make a greater impact on your own, Tochacha will make a greater impact on you when you were the one who stumbled in it. And I also want to explore the statement of Chazal here in Gittin. I want to see that in context. And maybe we can do that for tomorrow also. All right. Have a good day. Yeah.
Can I ask you a random